Okay, guys, here's headlines. This one hits right next door to me because I'm about 40 minutes from San Antonio. I'm literally right down Highway 10. Dozens of coronavirus evacuees from China arrive in San Antonio. Let's go through this story and see what we see. People at risk of carrying the coronavirus at Joint Base San Antonio Lackland aboard a chartering Boeing 747 on Friday, February 7th. That was yesterday. I heard about this on the radio yesterday. Dozens of evacuees from China at risk of falling ill to novel coronavirus arrived Friday to be quarantined at Joint Base San Antonio Lackland, and federal officials said none so far have shown signs of infection. Well, that's what they'll say. They exited the charter plane wearing surgical masks and bundled in coats. Some adults carried small children and led them by the hand. A few required the assistance of wheelchairs. They were met by federal workers fully covered by protective gear, white suits, blue gowns, gloves, masks, and eye shields. Jennifer McQuiston, a captain in the U.S. Public Health Service and leader of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's federal response at Lackland, said the exact number of evacuees was not available Friday. They are being housed in a hotel on base at Lackland for a quarantine period of 14 days, beginning from their departure from Wuhan, China on Thursday at around 6 p.m. Central Time. That's believed to be the maximum incubation period for the virus. Having endured long and challenging journeys undertaken without access to most of their belongings, the evacuees really deserve our empathy, McQuiston said. These individuals are about to enter a very tough 14-day quarantine period, she said. They don't know what's coming, they don't have the items that they're comfortable with, and it's our job to make sure that they're not only safe, but they're comfortable. So you can see here, they're preparing JBSA. It's actually a pretty nice hotel there at Lackland. Soldiers use that a lot of times, families. Their plane flown by Ypsilanti, Michigan-based Kalita Air also carried an unknown number of passengers who continued on to another designated quarantine location in Omaha, Nebraska on Friday. So if you're watching this and you're in Nebraska and you don't know, they sent some to you guys too. On the Express News, evacuees will be confined to a hotel in Lackland. The passengers on the flight were screened for any signs of illness multiple times during their journey. Upon landing in San Antonio and earlier Friday during a plane refueling at Travis Air Force Base in California. McQuiston said she could not address media reports that several passengers were identified while at the stopover as persons of interest, the government's term for people possibly infected with coronavirus. Jason McDonald, a CDC spokesman, said 4 of the 201, well, now we know how many there were. Remember earlier in the article they said they didn't know how many it was? Well, now we know. 4 of the 201 passengers who landed at Travis early Friday were being held in isolation area hospitals. Hold on a second. A CDC spokesman said 4 of the 201 passengers who landed at Travis early Friday were being held in isolation in area hospitals after showing symptoms. Most of the passengers flew on to Lackland, with 53 remaining behind at Travis. So not only are they at San Antonio, they're also at Travis. Or Lackland, they're also at Travis. So that doesn't even make sense. The numbers they put here don't make sense. So 4 of the 201 tested, they're held in isolation with possible symptoms. Most of the passengers flew on, with 53 remaining at Travis. So 4 out of the 201, but ended up being 53 out of the 200. Okay, so evidently the numbers are way off. They're hiding the numbers because this is confusing math. Some of these numbers don't make sense. Lackland is one of the 4 bases housing 1,000 people who have been evacuated from China, the center of an epidemic that has infected more than 34,000 people globally. The death toll has surpassed 700, and actually, if you go look at the real numbers, I think that's doubled. The evacuees at Lackland are under guard by federal marshals who will patrol a fenced perimeter of the Gateway Inn, a lodging facility on base, because they came from Wuhan, where the virus continues to spread rapidly. They are considered exposed to coronavirus, McQuiston said. So there's actually 1,000 people in Lackland. 4 other bases around the nation are holding people. So if you have a base near you, now I tried to check at Fort Hood. I couldn't find if there was any at Fort Hood or not. But if you have a base near you, they may have coronavirus victims there. They have been issued an official federal quarantine order, a legal document that prevents them from leaving until they are medically cleared. The last time in the United States issued such a quarantine was 6 decades ago, McQuiston said, in response to the spread of smallpox. It may seem surprising to some that we are taking such aggressive legal measures, said McQuiston, who serves as the CDC's Deputy Director of the Division of High Consequence Pathogens and Pathology. But the goal of our team here is to protect the safety and health of not only these citizens, but the citizens of San Antonio and America. We feel this is the best way to ensure that protection. Coronavirus strands, Chinese professor and family. Trained contractors are handling the evacuees' food, housekeeping, and laundry needs. Federal officials have said that no one on the base would have contact with the evacuees. Anyone who does will be outfitted in personal protective gear, which could include gowns, gloves, masks, and respirators. They need the respirators. Those stop biologicals. Paper masks do not. The evacuees will undergo temperature screens twice daily. Anyone with a fever of 100.4 degrees or above, or other signs of illness like coughing, sneezing, or shortness of breath, would be immediately medically evacuated. People suspected of having coronavirus will be transported to a local hospital and emergency medical service providers. Federal and San Antonio public health officials have repeatedly declined to identify which hospitals would receive patients in that event. I know one that would have them, the VA. Swab, because they have the best medical facility in San Antonio. They're the biggest. Swabs from those who are possibly infected with the coronavirus must currently be shipped to the CDC for confirmation testing, work that McQuiston said is being prioritized by the agency. But earlier this week, the CDC began shipping a laboratory test kit it has developed so that testing can also be conducted by select U.S. and international labs. Let's see. In China, the coronavirus has ballooned into a massive public health crisis with a rising number of infected people and deaths each day. Transmission is thought to be person to person there, and there are a growing number of cases among travelers in 28 other countries. A dozen cases have been reported in the U.S., Arizona, California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Washington, and Wisconsin, including 2 instances of local transmission. So it has been transmitted in America, on our soil. So there's no telling, guys. That's why we can't fear, because he already said this was going to happen. However, CDC officials have continued to stress that the risk of the general public contracting coronavirus is low. Maybe at the time of this article, but it can go up pretty quick. At Lackland, McQuiston said the families are allowed to stay in rooms together, and they will have access to medical staff 24 hours a day during the quarantine period. She said federal employees are taking extreme precautions to limit the virus spread. We're applying very sound science to our methods, she said. I really feel that what we're doing here is more than is needed to control coronavirus. Let me paint a picture for you. Oh, see my Diet Coke? There's somebody watching that has a problem with that. You won't see their comments because I blocked them already. Let me paint a picture for you. Most of your biologicals are spread different ways. Some are contact. Some contact with bodily fluids. Some, if they're very aggressive, contact with bodily fluids, but say they sneeze. That can get it out into the air, and you can get a drop on you and not realize it if it's caught and sails out, and can catch it that way. In a lot of these cases with these biologicals, they don't know 100% how they spread. All it takes for it to get out of its current containment, which it may have already gotten out, all it takes is for one mistake. Somebody doing their laundry, obviously they're wearing gloves, hooks a zipper or a button, tears the glove, and they get it in there. Don't pay it no mind. Strip the gloves off and chuck them. Don't even pay attention. Don't realize they got it on their hands. Now they go do a cleanup process after they disrobe, but you never know, because if it gets inside them by that time, and if a guy's got a little cut, there's its access point. I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there, but our best efforts can't even keep some things from spreading because they spread so fast. What if some kid messes with a bird on the rail at the hotel and it goes into the bird? They happen to be sick. Just saying. So here's what you can do. Be wary and be aware of what's going on around you. In this case, since we obviously have people here that are suspected and have already found cases of it in America, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on. There's no reason to freak out because if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. But you can take certain precautions. Use hand sanitizer. When you go to the grocery store and you grab a cart or something like that, after you're done, put hand sanitizer on your hands and clean them up. That's a real quick, easy way to keep that stuff under control. If you have cuts anywhere, keep them covered. That's an access point inside of your body. And just watch. Just be wary. When you go buy canned goods and the box stuff, when you get home, go buy those Clorox wipes and wipe them off. Because if somebody's sick and they're walking through a grocery store and they haven't been quarantined, by some chance, they sneeze and blow it all over, or cough and blow it all over the cans, but you don't know. So it's just little precautions that you can do that will help limit the chance of something happening to you and your family. Do your own research on this. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but do your own research on this. But since it's home for us, since it's here, you have to pay attention. Like when the Sutherland Springs shooting happened. I'm sure people heard about that. Was a fairly famous shooting. And it's 10 minutes down the road. And I know people that go there, to that church. Ever since then, people have been paying, well, not everybody, but people have been paying attention. Even churchgoers are getting their concealed carry license or their license to carry. And they're carrying because we're watching and we're taking precautions to protect the people that we love and the people around us. So use your due diligence and use your best judgment on how to deal with this. Now, obviously, if it breaks out and goes crazy, well, look what's going on in China. It's gonna go nuts. Do what you know the right thing is to do when it comes to this stuff. Whatever you do, don't freak out. So one thing you can't do is freak out. Okay, so if you're here with me in Texas, you know it's here now. I found an interesting article in the Times of Israel. Not that one, not that one, not that one, that one. Khamenei says Iran does not pose threat to any country, but must get stronger. What were they spending almost all of 2019 saying? Death to Israel, we have to destroy Israel, painting their Israeli flag on the floor so kids in school can walk on it. They have a flag company over there that makes the Jewish flag and the American flag just for burning, but they're not a threat. They have nuclear capability and enough processed uranium now to make a nuke, but they're not a threat. They're threatening to kill everybody in the world, but they're not a threat. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So evidently he's backpedaling a little bit. Let's go through this article and see what it says. Nations leaders says it must become strong enough to ward off enemy threats and prevent war. Well, who's been doing that? Nobody. Asserts U.S. sanctions may be the opportunity to end oil dependence. While Iran does not pose a threat to any country, it must become so strong that its enemies cannot threaten it, the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said Saturday. He said the Islamic Republic must become strong enough to ward off the enemy's threats and prevent a war. Haven't they already? I thought they were already strong enough. We must become strong so that there will not be a war. Become strong so the enemy's threats will end. Iran doesn't really have any enemies. They just got people that are putting them in check but never running their mouth. Khamenei told a gathering of Air Force commanders and staff aired on state television. This is to prevent threats, to maintain the country's security, he added. Iran funds the Gaza-based Palestinian Hamas and Islamic Jihad terror groups and Lebanon-based Hezbollah terror organizations, all of which are sworn to Israel's destruction. So Iran's not a threat, huh? Well, your bank account says otherwise. Khamenei called U.S. sanctions on the Islamic Republic criminal, but said they were an opportunity to make Iran less dependent on oil exports and focused on local industry. They're making excuses trying to put it off on other people. Khamenei also said Iran had a strong air force despite decades of U.S. pressure and sanctions on the country since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Our air force, which had no right to and couldn't even repair parts of aircraft before the revolution, now builds planes, Khamenei was quoted as saying. I would actually research that, because I thought they were getting their planes from Italy. That's just me. On Wednesday, I thought I read an article that said that. On Wednesday, Khamenei vowed that Tehran would fund Palestinian terror groups to the best of its ability, asserting that it was the proper response to the unveiling of the Trump peace plan. We're not a threat, but we're going to threaten you with an agency we use to threaten people. It's dumb. We believe that Palestinian armed organizations will stand and continue resistance, and the Islamic Republic sees supporting Palestinian groups as its duty, but they're not a threat, he said in an address published on his website. So it will support them however it can and as much as it can, and this support is the desire of the Islamic system and the Iranian nation. But they're not a threat. And actually, I've talked to a few people in Iran, Christian brothers and sisters. The people of Iran don't want any part of this. This is just the government and the army. Khamenei and U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan for solving the Khamenei said, Israeli-Palestinian conflict will die before the American leader does. Almost sounds like a threat. Almost. Almost sounds like they've already got something planned. The U.S. plan, seen as overwhelmingly supportive of Israeli goals, bless you, has been firmly rejected by the Palestinians. In a Tehran speech marking the anniversary of the 1979 Islamic Revolution in the country, Khamenei, 80, called the 73-year-old Trump's plan foolish because he predicted it will not bring any results. I don't know, it's already bringing results. You just don't like the results. You saw that the U.S. aggressors and highwaymen unveiled the plan of the so-called deal of the century, he wrote, referring to the January 28th ceremony at the White House at which Trump released the long-awaited plan. He blames it all on Trump, yet how many nations, leaders, and representatives were there when he did it? Saudi Arabia, Libya, on and on and on. He's not talking about them. He's just mad at America and Israel. They have wishfully chosen a big name for it, hoping to achieve it, Khamenei said, adding that the plan is stupid and detrimental to themselves since day one. Moreover, this plan is indicative of the U.S.'s viciousness and manipulation. They have come to negotiate with the Zionists over what belongs to the Palestinians. It does not belong to the Palestinians. Archaeologically, they've proven that over and over. And they even have the writings that show they've only been there a short time. Palestine belongs to the Palestinians. Who are you to make a decision on it? Khamenei declared. Khamenei has previously called the Trump proposal satanic and vowed, we're the great Satan, and vowed countries in the region would not allow it to be implemented. On Wednesday, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif called the leaders of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to condemn the Trump plan. So they're trying to make it so they don't get everything pushed through and they don't get it done. Here's the thing, like I've been telling you. Not a whole lot has happened since in the 10 days since this first came out. Yeah, I think we're 10 days now. Maybe just right on the cusp of it. But look at what's already been going on. There's already been a bunch of new fighting over there. In fact, there's another story I'm going to read you about some fighting over there in Syria. They don't want this plan to go through because they want to kill all the Jews and take the whole area for themselves. Iran can absorb the Palestinian people into their country. Why don't they? Syria can absorb the Palestinian people into their country. Many of them, most of them live there. Why don't they? The problem is no other nation wants the Palestinians because in 1947, when they first went in there to Jerusalem to survey the situation, to start to bring the people back, it was a wreck. It was destroyed. It looked like a trash dump. They were doing nothing for that country. Nothing grew there, and a bunch of goats running around and a bunch of people barely surviving. When the Jews came in, within 5 years, everything changed. But in 1967, when they had the Six-Day War, everything was rebuilt. Who did it? It wasn't the Palestinians. It was the Jews. Now, at that time, they offered them a great big chunk of land. Live with us. We'll help you. We'll defend you. We'll do everything. Oh, no, we can't do that. You all got to leave. Well, too bad. A day earlier, he phoned Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to reiterate Tehran's opposition to the plan. Speaking with Abbas, Zarif expressed his support for the rights of the Palestinian people and their right to self-determination and the embodiment of establishing an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Palestinian Authority News Service WAFA reported they got East Jerusalem. They gave him a big piece of it. He also said that Iran was working to forge an international consensus against the Trump plan. The plan grants Israel much of what it has sought in decades of international diplomacy, including control over Jerusalem as its undivided capital, rather than a city to share with the Palestinians. It also lets Israel annex West Bank settlements in the Jordan Valley, some 30% of the West Bank. The proposal provides for a potential Palestinian state in 70% of the West Bank, with restricted sovereignty under overall Israeli security control, provided the Palestinians recognize Israel as a Jewish state, among other conditions. It offers them Jerusalem neighborhoods on the far side of the security barrier for a capital. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran have been steadily rising since Washington, in May 2018, pulled out of a 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and world powers, saying it didn't go far enough to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons or address its missile program. No, actually, Obama gave them millions of dollars to help them do it. The so-called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action had given Iran relief from sanctions in return for it limiting its nuclear research program. Having pulled out, the U.S. then applied severe sanctions on Iran, particularly targeting its oil industry. Iran has responded by reducing its own commitments to the deal, prompting European signatories to trigger a dispute process. European signatories? Macron? Remember I told you guys? Him and the Arabs are real good buddies, paving the way for them to also possibly restore sanctions. The two countries were brought to the brink of war last month after the U.S. killed a top Iranian general in a drone strike. Iran responded with missile strikes on Iraqi military bases housing U.S. troops, dozens of whom suffered traumatic brain injuries from the shock waves of the explosions. Okay, so, yeah. But Iran's not a threat. Don't you dare say Iran's a threat. They're not a threat. Ridiculous. All right. So what we need to do... What do you want? Well, come here. Come on. All right, go back in there then. Dog. So, what's going to happen now? Well, they're really fighting... The thing is that they're going to start doing... I think Netanyahu's going to annex a little bit before before the March elections. I think he's going to try to annex something. At any rate, no matter what goes down, it's going to make people mad. It's going to make Palestinians mad. It's going to make the Iranians mad because they're defending the Palestinians. Why they don't just absorb them is beyond me. They're literally complaining over a piece of land the size of New Jersey. Iran is, 50 times bigger than that? They can give them a place the size of New Jersey and let the Palestinians live with them. But they don't want the Palestinians. They don't like the Palestinians. But they're going to defend them because it gives them something to complain about and gives them a reason to go after Israel. Palestinian people don't even realize they're being used. So, watch what happens here. Watch what unfolds. You're going to see more skirmishes and more little fights. At some point, Iran is going to take a step. They're going to do something dumb. And I bet we fly in there and wipe them out after that. And that may be when you see Damascus destroyed. Because most of their troops are over there anyway. I see Libya, Turkey, Libya. I think Saudi Arabia has a few troops there. We've got a few troops there, just a few. Iran's got a bunch of troops there. Russia's got troops there, all in Syria around Damascus, right north of the Golan Heights, where the big battle is supposed to take place. They're all there, ready to fight. So it looks like there's going to be a big old battle that's going to go on up there. It's all going to be on that one spot. Well, in that battle, Damascus will get wiped out. We read about that in the Bible, in Ezekiel and Isaiah. And then we're going to see it all fall apart from there. So it's all been foretold, and we see the signs of it leading up to it. But I think that's funny, though. We're not a threat to any country, but yet they make a bunch of threats. Syrian army overruns key crossroads town despite Turkish warnings. Now, the last headlines I did, or the one before that, I talked about how Turkey has been over there trying to keep this stuff under control, but it's not doing very well. Actually, the fighting has been picking up quite a bit. Damascus, Syria. The Syrian army took control of the strategic northwestern crossroads town of Syria on Saturday in the latest gain of weeks-long offensive against the country's last major rebel bastion of Idlib. The advance came shortly after Turkey sent additional troops into the region and threatened to respond if any of its military observation posts in Idlib, set up under a 2018 truce, come under attack. Army units now exercise full control over the town of Syria. State television reported over footage of the town's streets deserted after weeks of bombardment. So you see they're fighting right there in Damascus. Since December, Syrian government forces have pressed a blistering assault against the Idlib region, with Russian support retaking town after town despite warnings from the rebel ally Turkey to back off. The violence has killed more than 300 civilians and sent some 586,000 fleeing civilians onto the roads, seeking relative safety nearer the Turkish border. The United Nations... Hey, be quiet. Shh. The United Nations and aid groups have appealed for an end to hostilities, warning that scale of the exodus risks creating one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes of the nearly 9-year war. Well, we've been watching that happen for a while now. Let's see. Let's see where... Okay, hold on just a second. Let me go. Okay, so let's look at a map real quick and see. Okay, so on this map, hopefully you guys can see it okay. You can see Idlib right there, just above Syria. And there's Aleppo in Syria, and there's Turkey over there, and Damascus is to the east of that area. So it'll give you an idea of where the fighting is going on and what's happening. So there's Idlib province there. Damascus is south, not east. My mistake. So this will give you an idea of how that's laid out over there and where the bulk of the fighting is. Which there's some in Damascus. Actually, they're fighting from Damascus all the way up to Idlib. There's a whole lot around Aleppo. I've read a couple of reports of stuff going on in Tartus, whatever. So... yeah, this will give you an idea. When you look at these maps, it helps you understand what's going on and where it's happening. Okay. What else we got here? But Syrian President Bashar Assad's forces have pressed on with their advance. Syria is a strategic prize for the government. It seeks to take back control of 2 major highways that meet in the town. The M5 motorway connects the capital and second city, Aleppo, running up from the Jordanian border in the south. It is Syria's longest highway, so you saw that in the map where those were at. The Britain-based Syrian Observation for Human Rights said on Friday that government forces were in control of the whole extent of the M5 in Idlib province. Only a 30-kilometer, 20-mile section in neighboring Aleppo now remains in rebel hands. And they do that. They take control of roads to stop supply routes and people going on exodus trying to get out. Syria sits in the crossroads with the M4, the main east-west highway in Idlib, which links Aleppo with the Mediterranean port city of Latakia, a government bastion. The M4 is still largely controlled by jihadists and their rebel allies. So there's a lot of fighting going on over there, and there's probably a whole lot more fighting that's going to happen. It's probably going to pick up. But we know this is all supposed to happen, so it should not be a surprise. Let's see. Is there anything interesting? I didn't get down this far yet because I wanted to hurry up and get this out. Trump ousts Jewish ambassador who testified in impeachment query. A lot of stuff happening, guys. Israeli dad in China documents life under quarantine in coronavirus epicenter. Since this is the news of the day, let's go check this story out and see if there's anything interesting we can get. See, the mask she's wearing, that's a better mask for biologicals. Still not the best because it doesn't seal around your face. Like many parents do with their young children are under the weather, measures the boy's temperature frequently, when in Deckel's case, his concern for his son Liam is exacerbated by living at the epicenter of the coronavirus epidemic, Wuhan, China. Deckel, a 56-year-old businessman originally from Haifa, has lived in Wuhan for many years with his Chinese wife, Nana, who is the mother of his two youngest children, both of whom are under 10. That's what makes this stuff really hard, is when you have little kids that are involved in this stuff, because they don't understand. Authorities have placed the city under lockdown to stop the virus's spread. Anyone whose temperature rises above 99.32 degrees Fahrenheit is sent to large quarantine centers. On Friday morning, Liam's temperature rose to close to 99. I will do whatever I can so that we spend this Shabbat together at home, Deckel wrote on Facebook. Deckel has been writing on the social media site in Hebrew several times a day about the situation, giving an intimate view, complete with videos and photographs, of how his Chinese-Israeli family is coping. He worries about Liam's temperature, isolation, caring for his lonely neighbors and friends, and securing supplies with minimal interaction with the outside world. We just heard the decision was changed. There won't be house inspections so as to not risk transmitting the virus. We're required to report daily if anyone's temperature rises above 99.32 degrees Fahrenheit. That pressure's off, he wrote Friday. His followers responded with hundreds of tips on how to keep the boy's temperature down. Earlier this week, Deckel wrote about running a high fever himself and his worry that he had contracted the virus. The fever eventually broke, appearing to be nothing more serious than the common flu. That's the other part that sucks about that, is that this is flu season. So who has the virus? Who has the flu? As of Friday, Chinese government figures showed the virus had killed at least 636 people and infected at least 31,000+. And many believe those official statistics are far from complete. Yeah, this guy does. The New York Times reported the fatality rate for Hubei province, where Wuhan is located, as a whole was 2.8% as of Thursday. That's horrible for a province. For a nation, that's one thing. But just for a province in a nation, that's a whole other thing. The scare has prompted several major airlines, including KLM and Air France, to suspend flights to all of China, affecting trade. The virus has spread to other countries in Asia and beyond. Many countries now. I forget what the official number was as of yesterday, but many countries are reporting actual cases. Israel's health ministry said Friday that travelers returning to Israel from China, Hong Kong, Thailand, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and Macau, who have a fever, coughing, or any other respiratory symptoms must seek medical help and go for testing. In addition, anyone who has been in close contact with an individual confirmed to have the virus must also go for testing. People with a fever in Wuhan are now moved to an observation center where health ministry personnel determine who has the virus and who has an unrelated fever and can be discharged. The problem is that in the observation facility, one is surrounded by hundreds of sick people. Some of them are bound to be infected with the virus, Deckel wrote. I can't imagine seeing my boy transferred to such a facility. Deckel's family had been required to stay indoors for the past 16 days and have had only a few brief opportunities to go outside to stock up on food. On Thursday, Deckel wrote humorously about the miracles that his family is blessed with while inside. One was the Bamba miracle, the discovery of a forgotten bag of popular Israeli peanut-flavored corn snacks. So he's looking for the humor in the situation. Another was what Deckel called the mask miracle. Nana cleaned the closets and found a surgeon's mask and goggles that she forgot she even bought at the time to protect her face while cooking, he wrote. Thanks to that mask, Nana can go outside and stock up on food. We're not hungry here, but food is running out and we need to buy. There are no home deliveries. Nana will be able to come out protected and bring back food. Okay. Cleaned out the closet, found a mask. Tensions are beginning to form around Deckel's vegetarianism, which is a challenge because it means he can't eat canned meat. In one passage about this, Deckel wrote, "You're causing food problems," Nana says tiredly before we turn in. "All the yummy food is for you because you don't eat meat. Vegetables are as rare as diamonds now, and you get to have 80% of the diamonds." Last week, residents organized a solidarity action in which millions of people stood near their shut glass windows in the evening and chanted Wuhan Jai-Vu, which translates "Go Wuhan Go," Deckel wrote. The gesture sounds like what happened when Harvey hit Houston. All of Texas came together. The gesture, which thundered through the city's deserted streets and into his residents' homes, moved him to tears, he wrote. What these guys ought to do, what they could do, is if everything seems pretty good and the people are good, they can do what's called stone soup. And it's an old story, but it works really good in situations like this. You can look up what stone soup is. Oh, hold on. Let me see if this comes through. Hold on. This may be them chanting. Yep. That's all people there, guys. You see them all in the windows? All right, let me plug that back in. That's awesome. That's awesome. On January 24th, Deckel and Liam flew an Israeli flag outside their window after hearing that Israel is not aware of any Israelis living in Wuhan. Whoops. "I want people to know we are here and that Israel is also a part of this," Deckel wrote. All right, so if you guys want to get closer into this situation with him and you are on Facebook, go get on Facebook and see if you can find this guy. I'll get his name up here. Here's his name right here. Ofer Deckel. Oferdekel. So if you guys want to find him on Facebook and look him up and check out his, because you can run the translator and it'll translate it to English, and check out his posts, since he's boots on ground. So he'll be giving real time until they shut him down, but go check him out and see what you can find. All right, that's all I'm going to cover right now. We've gone on long enough. I love you guys. I bless you all in Jesus' name. Stay strong. Even though stuff's going on, it's nothing to fear. We have God on our side. What can possibly hurt us? This body may die, but we go on to something much greater than what this body has. See you guys in the next video.